Section 3 Curriculum Development. Teachers don't merely deliver the curriculum, they develop, define it, and interpret it too. Michael Fullan and Andrew Hargreaves, Understanding Teacher Development, 1994. Planning and implementing an authentic curriculum that meets today's needs presents a significant challenge. The curriculum is more than just a syllabus or timetable. It embraces all of the learning opportunities for students, both formal and informal. The 10 questions described provide a useful checklist for planning and evaluating a curriculum. Sequencing the content can prove complex. Some approaches may be more effective than others in helping the learner achieve the expected learning outcomes. Students should be partners in curriculum development and not just consumers. The role of the teacher has to change as we empower students to take more responsibility for their own learning. A clinical problem or task undertaken by a healthcare professional can serve as the basis for learning. The student is motivated by the more authentic learning experience. An integrated curriculum, bringing together different disciplines, offers major advantages. There are benefits from sharing learning experiences with different professions. There is no better way to learn than from work-related experience. This requires careful monitoring and supervision, alongside a core curriculum that provides the necessary breadth of study. Options and electives provide an opportunity for students to study selected topics in depth. The education environment is now recognized as being a substantial and very real element that influences students' learning. Tools are available to assess the education environment. A clear picture of how learning outcomes, teaching methods, and student assessment link together is crucial not only for the teacher but also for the student. A curriculum map is needed. Chapter 12, The Authentic Curriculum. The curriculum is more than just a syllabus or timetable. It embraces all of the learning opportunities, both formal and informal. The concept of a curriculum. The curriculum was equated in the past with the syllabus and the timetable for the education program. A curriculum document included a statement about content, the subjects covered, and the courses that students should attend. This concept of a curriculum has been widened to include the learning outcomes, the teaching and learning methods, the educational strategies, the context for the learning environment, the assessment procedures. Each of these aspects of a curriculum is explored in more detail in the chapters that follow. A curriculum can be thought of as made up of all the experiences learners have that enable them to achieve the specified learning outcomes. The curriculum is seen as an expression of intentions, mechanisms, and contexts of the education program that requires input from all of the stakeholders, including teachers, students, administrators, employers, the government, and the wider public. The authentic curriculum from university to the real world. In medical education, we see a move to what has been described as an authentic curriculum. Indeed, this is at the very heart of medical education today. An authentic curriculum has as its aim that the learners will have the ability to perform in the workplace as an outcome of the education program. Medical schools have been criticized and are being pressed to ensure that the doctors trained are able to meet the healthcare needs of the population that they serve. In line with the concept of an authentic curriculum is a move to an outcome-based approach as described in section 1 of this book, with an emphasis on professionalism, empathy, self-regulation, and cultural sensitivity. Education strategies such as integration, interprofessional education, problem-based and task-based learning, a socially accountable medical school. In the authentic curriculum, what is learned in medical school focuses on and connects with real-world issues, problems, and applications. Unlike the situation in a traditional curriculum, where the emphasis is on acquiring knowledge and skills to pass an examination. In an authentic curriculum, students acquire the foundational skills, knowledge, understanding, and attitudes that they will need to practice as a doctor. This involves connectedness, where the teaching has value and meaning in the real world. In the traditional apprenticeship model in medicine, which existed for hundreds of years, knowledge and skills were passed down from one person to another. The apprentice learned from the master by observing him treat patients. Early in the 20th century, real-world learning experiences that were a feature of the apprenticeship model were replaced in many countries by an emphasis on the medical sciences. This had the unintended consequence of separating the basic medical sciences and clinical practice. The fact that basic science knowledge should have a clinical purpose and not be an objective in itself was ignored in medical training until later in the 20th century. Relevance, as described in the FAIR principles, is key to effective learning. Studies have demonstrated that students' engagement with their studies is directly related to their perception of the relevance of the content. As illustrated in Figure 12.1, relevance can be seen as relating to the intrinsic value of what is taught. For example, knowledge of hormone synthesis pathway in the thyroid gland will help the student to understand the actions of antithyroid drugs in the treatment of a patient with thyrotoxicosis. The other aspect of relevance is the instrumental value. This is a demonstration of the relevance where the content is shown to be immediately useful in practice. Four quadrants are shown in the figure. The bottom left quadrant can be identified as the ivory tower, where there is no intrinsic or instrumental value of what is being taught. This sadly remains the home of much of what is covered in the medical curriculum. In the bottom right quadrant, students have the opportunity to apply what they have learned, but it is not relevant to medical practice. This is typical of many practical classes. For this reason, many practical classes in medical education have now been replaced with more meaningful learning experiences. In the top left quadrant, we have superficial authenticity. Here, the teaching is dressed up to appear authentic by reference to real-world elements. This may be simply tokenism, and such camouflage is not authenticity. It is not sufficient simply to tell the students that what they are learning has applications in medicine. They must appreciate this in practice through patients they see. Making narrow pitches to a subject's future utility typically fails to generate student interest. In the top right quadrant, we have the authentic curriculum in the real world. Authentic academic tasks, argue Krajcik and Blumenfeld, ask students to engage with content as though they were practitioners in that field. Such authentic learning is vital if students are to acquire the competencies necessary to practice as a doctor. There is no substitute for learning knowledge and skills in contexts that reflect the way the knowledge will be useful in real life. Bleakley and Blake made an appeal for medical education to get real and engage students and patients in collaborative knowledge production, where real patients represent students' texts. Central to their argument is that work-based learning should be the focus of curriculum design in medicine. Figure 12.1, the authentic curriculum. The authentic curriculum. Intrinsic value, yes, superficial relevance. Authentic curriculum, the real world. Practical classes not relevant. Instrumental value, no. Ivory tower. There are four features of authentic learning as described by Rule. 1. The activity involves real-world problems. 2. Students are emotional stakeholders in the problems and exercise higher levels of thinking as they learn. 3. Authentic learning occurs through discourse among a community of learners. 4. Learning is student-centered and students are empowered to direct their own learning. The introduction of an authentic curriculum, particularly in the early years, is not without problems. The student may find it difficult to integrate the required knowledge and skills obtained from multiple sources. The results are not always predictable, and there may be unintended consequences. The learning may be perceived as being inefficient. Students may feel uncomfortable and even incompetent. Teachers may not have the relevant background and clinical experience. With thought and consideration, however, it is possible to change from a more traditional to an authentic curriculum. Returning to the concept of apprenticeship, Dornan has suggested that apprenticeship is as relevant today as it was a century ago. I suggest the wheel has come full circle. Apprenticeship, central to Osler and Flexner's educational visions, needs to be revitalized. The challenge is not to create a new educational theory, but but to reapply an old one to the fast-changing context of the 21st century healthcare. The planned, the delivered, and the learned curriculum. A distinction can be made between the planned curriculum that is documented and agreed by the curriculum planners and teachers and embodies their intentions and aspirations, the curriculum on paper, the actual or delivered curriculum, which is the reality of the students' or trainees' experiences and is what is delivered or happens in practice, the curriculum in action, the learned curriculum, which represents the students' knowledge, skills, and attitudes that result from their learning experience. A mismatch between the planned and the delivered curriculum may be due to a teacher's lack of familiarity or acceptance of the specified curriculum, or to the fact that the realities of any course will never fully match the hopes and intentions of the planners. Occasionally, the problem may arise from a deliberate intent by teachers to emphasize what they think is important to be taught rather than what is specified in the curriculum. Teachers can sabotage a curriculum. They need to be committed to the planned curriculum and accept the underlying principles. It is the teacher's responsibility to keep any differences between the planned and delivered curriculum to a minimum. Where there are significant differences, the reason for these should be analyzed and action taken as necessary. Logistical problems, problems with students or trainees, or inherent issues with the planned curriculum should be addressed. Part of the learned curriculum is the hidden curriculum. This can be thought of as the outcomes that are not part of the explicit intentions of those planning a curriculum. These may be knowledge and skills, but more importantly may be attitudes and beliefs. The formal curriculum is described in the course documents, prospectus, and study guides. The hidden or unofficial curriculum is determined by the educational environment and relates to the students' experiences. There may be conflict, particularly in relation to the ethical issues between the hidden curriculum and what is taught in the formal curriculum. The authentic curriculum addresses what is planned, what is taught, and what is learned. Figure 12 points to the planned, the delivered, and the learned curriculum. The planned curriculum, the delivered curriculum, the learned curriculum, the hidden curriculum.